Good day, everyone. This is a pre-recorded lesson discussion in the subject reading and writing. Okay, the first lesson that we're going to discuss for this subject is the topic critical thinking. Okay, lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, the students will be able to define critical thinking, differentiate critical from non-critical thinking, formulate higher order questions from a text, answer critically the given questions from a text, and employ the principles of critical thinking in various situations. Okay, let's proceed to the lesson discussion. Okay, critical versus non-critical thinking. Learning to develop your ability to think critically will help you succeed academically and professionally. Non-critical thinking happens when you simply accept the things you are told without examining them. It also happens when you construct thoughts based on emotions. Moreover, non-critical thinking leads people to jump to conclusions without proof or evidence. Right? In academics and professional setting, it's very important that you need to develop or improve your ability to think critically. You need to evaluate the things or the information that you are dealing with or whatever it is. So, non critical thinking usually happens when you're not evaluating, you're not scrutinizing, or you're not thinking deeply about the information that you are dealing with. So usually you base on your emotions or you did not think about what are the inferences or implications of the details that you are reading. Critical thinking, on the other hand, involves a series of conflict thought processes which allows you to make reasoned judgments, assess the way you think, and solve problems effectively. In critical thinking, you need to process the thoughts, the meanings of the text or the passages or reading compositions, information, or details that you are reading. So you need to make deductions, you need to conclude, you need to make or infer judgments based on the facts given in the text that you are reading. So by using critical thinking, you're able to solve problems, you make solutions, to those problems, and address problems. Okay, levels of thinking. In 1956, Benjamin Bloom, an American educational psychologist, together with a team of educational psychologists, published Bloom's taxonomy of the cognitive domain, which is a system that classifies the levels of thinking important for learning. Okay, we have what we call levels of thinking. This is proposed originally by Benjamin Bloom. So, according to him, there are different stages or different levels in thinking, of the simplest form to the complex ones. Created by Bloom to promote higher levels of thinking, it is composed of 6 levels which follow a successive pattern. This simply means that to proceed to the next level, the current one must be mastered first. The 6 levels are knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation. So these are the 6 levels of cognitive higher level thinking. So you need to complete first the basic levels before you can go to the higher levels. Later on in 2001, Bloom's former student, Lauren Anderson, and a group of cognitive psychologists published a revision to the original taxonomy to make it more relevant to 21st century students and teachers. They changed the names of the levels and used verbs instead of nouns to denote an active process of thinking. Knowledge, comprehension, and synthesis were named remembering, understanding, and creating, respectively. So, one of the former students of Bloom revised his taxonomy. So from noun, the terms being used in the levels of thinking, he changed and his colleagues into verbs. Aside from this, Anderson and others also restructured the levels because creating is a more complex form of thinking than evaluating. Thus, the revised taxonomy now features the levels of thinking in the following order: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So, one of the very reasons why Anderson and others changed the forms of the levels of thinking is that according to them, learning is a continuous process and it's an action that we need to take. Learning is an action and it's a continuous process. Thus, from noun, they change it to verb. They change to continuous verb because learning is an action and it is continuous. So from uh, the highest in the original Bloom's taxonomy, the highest level of thinking is evaluation, but in the revised Bloom's taxonomy, it's the synthesis or creating the highest level of thinking. So these are the two versions, the first or the original and the revised version. So the first level, the knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluation in the old version. But in the new version, the first level is remembering, then understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, now creating. So there's a change of the levels and also the terminologies used between these two versions. So first, let's discuss the lower order thinking skills, which are remembering, understanding, and applying. Next one, the higher order thinking skills, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Okay, for remembering, what usually you need to do when it comes to this level of thinking is that usually recall or retrieve previous learned information, meaning you're just going to deal with the literal details or information that you obtained from the text. Okay, for examples, reciting policy, quote prices from memory to a customer, recite the safety rules. So these are just low levels of thinking skills. And the keywords are defines, describes, identifies, knows, labels, lists, matches, names, outlines, recalls, recognizes, reproduces, selects, states. So these are the verbs that are indications that the level of thinking is remembering. Second is understanding, comprehending the meaning, translation, interpolation, interpretation of instructions and problems, state a problem in one's own words. So in understanding, you usually comprehend the meaning of the text that you are reading. You need to provide what are the implications, what are the underlying messages. Examples, rewrite the principles of test writing. So you're going to make paraphrase, you're going to make a summary. These are the examples of activities which denote the level of understanding. Examples, to write the principles of test writing, explain in one's own words the steps for performing a complex task, translate an equation in the computer spreadsheet. So the keywords that you need to look at when it comes to this level of thinking are comprehends, converts, defends, distinguishes, estimates, explains, extends, generalizes, gives an example, infers, interprets, paraphrases, predicts, rewrites, summarizes, and translates. So from remembering, you jump to understanding. So uh, you'll be able to relay on your own words what are the facts that you can remember on the text that you are reading. The third level is applying. In applying, use a concept in a new situation or unprompted use of an abstraction applies what was learned in a classroom into novel situations in the workplace. So basically, you're just going to use the knowledge that you understand on the text that you're reading. So there's a succession in the utilization of uh, level of thinking. So from knowledge or remembering to understanding, you'll be able to understand the meanings of the text that you're reading or the things that you remembered. Then after that, you use that knowledge appropriately. So examples are use a manual to calculate an employee's vacation time, apply laws of statistics to evaluate the reliability of a written test. So these are the activities that denote the level of applying. So the keywords for this level are applies, changes, computes, constructs, demonstrates, discovers, manipulates, modifies, operates, predicts, prepares, produces, relates, shows, solves, and uses. So from remembering to understanding, then to applying. So now let's proceed to the higher level order. First is analyzing, or the fourth level in the Bloom's taxonomy. Analyzing separates material or concepts into component parts so that its organizational structure may be understood. Distinguishes between facts and inferences. Okay. In analyzing, you'll be able to deduce, you'll be able to chunk the details or information presented text. You'll be able to categorize, you'll be able to discriminate, able to separate based on their functions, based on their classes, or whatever their categories are. So you'll be able to deduce, you make deductions. Examples are troubleshoot a piece of equipment by using logical deduction, recognize logical fallacies in reasoning, gathers information from a department and selects the required task for training. So the keywords that you're going to look at in this level are analyzes, breaks down, compares and contrasts, diagrams, deconstructs, differentiates, discriminates, distinguishes, identifies, illustrates, infers, outlines, relates, selects, or separates. And the next level, which is evaluating. You make judgment about the value of ideas or materials. So after you analyze the information that you've read in a text, so you're going to separate, you're going to make deductions. So you need to evaluate what are the deeper implications, inferences of those information that you have deduced out of the text. So examples of activities are select the most effective solution, hire the most qualified candidate, explain and justify a new budget. So the keywords that you need to consider when it comes to this level are appraises, compares, concludes, contrasts, criticizes, critiques, defends, describes, discriminates, evaluates, explains, interprets, justifies, relates, summarizes, and supports. And the last level is creating. It builds a structure or pattern from diverse elements, put parts together to form a whole with emphasis on creating a new meaning or structure. So in creating, so basically it means you need to design, you need to craft, or you need to make a new meaning out of the information that you have gathered from the text that you are reading. Meaning you need to create a new one out of um, the references or the sources that you have made. Examples are write a company operations or process manual, design a machine to perform specific task, integrates training from several sources to solve a problem, revises and process to improve the outcome. So these are the activities which require the level of creating. Keywords are categorizes, combines, compiles, composes, creates, devises, designs, explains, generates, modifies, organizes, plans, rearranges, reconstructs, relates, reorganizes, revises, rewrites, summarizes, tells, or writes. So these are the words that you need to consider when it comes to this level of thinking. So as you may observe, there are other keywords that being used in other levels, meaning they overlap. But the thing is, although they overlap, but it's how the words being used in a sentence or how the words being contextualized. So it depends upon the specific task that you need to do based on the keywords. Okay. Qualities of a critical thinker. Someone who thinks critically is inquisitive. He or she asks genuine questions that lead to a better understanding of things and events. He or she does not pretend to know more than what he or she actually knows. So, these are the important qualities that you need to consider when it comes to um, critically think in various situations. So you need to be inquisitive, which means that you need to ask questions, you need to inquire, but you need to make sure the questions that you're going to ask are rational or questions with sense, meaning with points. You have a point when it comes to asking this type of question. So in if you're a critical thinker, you do not need to pretend that you know more than what you know, which means that you need to be true. What are the things that you know or the information that you hold? A critical thinker knows that critical thinking does not necessarily mean looking for faults. It is rather about being open minded to different ideas to arrive at a better judgment. Moreover, a critical thinker examines and evaluates information. So, when critical thinker, if you, a critical thinker doesn't mean that they are fault finder. So if you're a critical thinker, you better understand that it's important that you need to scrutinize or discriminate information or details. So um, um, it's fine if you keep on asking questions, keep on scrutinizing um, the information that being presented to you because it's your job to evaluate if the presentation is correct. So you need to examine, you need to evaluate if the information are factual or truthful. Importance of critical thinking. In the area of reading, critical thinking makes you recognize different texts and react to them intelligently. It enables you to analyze written works, comprehend the message they convey, and apply message in real life. Evaluating text critically also allows you to maximize the learning experience that reading provides. This also leads to a better understanding and enjoyment of the text you read. So in critical thinking, it's very important when it comes to reading, because when you read, you'll be able to fully understand what you are reading. You are equipped to decipher the intention of the author, um, the underlying messages, what are the inferences, what are the implications of the message or the information that you are reading. So it's also important, especially nowadays in the age of internet, um, we are considered as information consumers. We are bombarded with a lot of information. It's very important that we know how to evaluate the information that we read in social media, especially fake news are everywhere. So in order for us to protect ourselves from being victims of fake news, we need to know um, how to discriminate the information being presented to us, whether they are factual or fake. In terms of writing, a critical approach provides you with the skills to create well-written text. By knowing how to analyze and evaluate, you can write with a clear purpose and position. Okay. Reading and writing, these two macro skills are interrelated to each other. Meaning, before you can write, you need to equip yourselves with a lot of readings so that you can come up with a lot of ideas in your mind in order for you to express yourselves. It's very important that you need to read first before you write. So in the same thing in writing a research, especially now you are having your practical research one, you are writing a research study, it's very important that you need to read a lot of related literature about the topic that you want to investigate or you want to conduct. And let's proceed to the fundamental reading skills. Lesson objectives. At the end of the lesson, students will be able to identify the purposes, types, and categories of reading, determine the skills used in each of the stages of the reading process, and gain knowledge and basic reading skills. Right, the reading process. Reading is a process that involves recognizing words, leading to the development of comprehension. According to research, reading is a process that negotiates the meaning between the text and its reader. The reading process involves three stages. Okay. Reading process. Reading is not just about recognizing the words that you see in a text. It's not just about knowing how to pronounce the words. It's about understanding what you're reading. It's all about comprehension. It's all about being able to evaluate, analyze, scrutinize the information in the text that you are reading. So you need to make a meaningful experience in reading between you as a reader and the text. And the first level in, or the first stage in reading is the pre-reading stage, which allows the reader to activate background knowledge, preview the text, and develop a purpose for reading. A strategy for students to utilize during this stage is to look at the title of the selection and list all the information that comes to mind about the title. So in pre-reading stage, you gather information or your background knowledge about the reading composition that you're reading. So before you read, you need to review first what are the interrelated information about the text you are reading. Next is the second stage. It occurs during reading or while reading stage, when the reader makes predictions as they read and then confirms or revises the predictions. For example, a double entry journal enables the reader to write the text from the reading on one side and their personal reaction on the other side. So in during reading, you are engaging the text, meaning while you are reading, you make inferences, you make predictions, um, you make anticipations what will happen next, or um, you make meaningful experience out of the text you are reading. And the final stage occurs after reading or post-reading stage. It allows the reader to retell the story, discuss the elements of a story, answer questions that are compared to another text. So, meaning you are like summarizing the story. You are discussing what are the information that you have obtained from the text. For example, students can create summaries where they take a huge selection and reduce it to its main points for more concise understanding. So after you read, you write what are the things that you have learned in the text that you have read. So that's after reading or post-reading stage. Comprehension is an intentional, active, interactive process that occurs before, during, and after a person reads a particular piece of writing. So comprehension is very important in reading. You cannot separate comprehension from reading because reading is only successful if you are able to understand, comprehend the meanings of the text that you are reading. Okay, basic reading skills. First is the rapid reading. It aims to locate specific information or main ideas in a very short span of time. Examples of these include skimming and scanning, which are both free reading skills. Okay, in rapid reading, you're just aiming to locate what are the specific details that you want to look at the text. So you may employ scanning or skimming, or whichever is convenient to you. So rapid reading, you just have to select the information that you need out of the text. First is skimming. When you try to get the general idea by reading through the text quickly, what you do is skimming. So uh, skimming is like you are glancing at the text. You just uh, you just running through the information in the text that you are reading. It is a type of quick reading which aims to get the main idea and to get an overview of the materials. It is usually done when reading newspapers, magazines, books, and letters. Next is locating the main idea. It involves identification of the central message of a reading selection. The main idea is usually found in either or both the first and the last sentences of a paragraph, but it may also appear in the middle or may simply be implied and not explicitly stated in the text. Okay, when locating the main idea, uh, usually you need to go to the first sentence or the last sentence. But other paragraphs, they do not present explicitly the main idea of the text, but you need to um, decipher, you need to decode because sometimes the main ideas are implied in the text, not necessarily being presented literally. And scanning, it is a quick reading strategy which aims to get specific information from a given text. Scanning is useful in locating the specific name of the forward passer, looking for email in your inbox, or checking specific information in a graph. So in scanning, it's more specific than skimming. Scanning, just like looking at the table of contents in a book, then you just have to locate which specific page, the topic or lesson that or the chapter that you want to read. Then we have previewing. It's a skill wherein a reader looks over a material and focuses on the information he or she finds relevant. Previewing also allows readers to set the purpose and link the content of the material to their background knowledge. It is conducted during the pre-reading stage. In previewing, you just have to um, be purposeful when it comes to reading. Um, you just have to consider locating the information that you want to read, um, that you think the most important, meaning, or the information that you want to look at. So it is usually conducted during the pre-reading stage. So before you read the whole text, you just have to have a preview. You have to select which specific part you're looking for. Then we have literal reading. It involves understanding of ideas and facts that are directly stated in the printed materials, meaning it's in the surface level of reading. You just have to get the literal details or information presented in the text. Summarizing. It is a reading skill that involves condensing a lengthy text into a shorter passage, which is usually 15 to 30% of the source material. So summarizing, you need to, it's like retelling a story in a concise form, meaning you need to condense, you need to shorten the text that you read when you summarize. You just have to include the necessary or important details when it comes to summarizing. Paraphrasing, it involves restating ideas from the original text. Unlike a summary, the length of a paraphrase text is almost similar to the length of the original text because it focuses on the details and not on the main idea. So in paraphrasing, um, you need to restate the ideas from the original text, which means that you're going to use your own words. You need to express what you understand on the source text or the original text. So summarizing and paraphrasing are very important when it comes to research writing, especially in review of related literature. You need to employ these skills when it comes to research writing. We also have inferential reading. It refers to the process of deducing facts and ideas not directly expressed in the text. It is also known as reading between the lines. This skill includes making generalizations, inferences, and conclusions. This is applied during or while reading stage. Inferential reading, basically, you are making deductions or conclusions. The text. You uh, deconstruct the information that you've read in the text, and then you make meanings out of those deconstructions, out of those information that you chunk. So you make implications, what are the conclusions, what are the underlying messages of the text. Next, we have critical reading. It refers to the close and thorough evaluation of the claims in the text in terms of relevance, validity, and logic. This skill includes distinguishing facts from opinions and detecting logical fallacies. So in critical reading, you're going to scrutinize the text, whether they are factual or truthful, whether their opinion, they're the authors using fallacies in the text. So meaning you need to scrutinize the text that you are reading. And we have different types of reading. First is developmental reading. It is a branch of reading instruction that is designed to support literacy in a variety of contexts to improve comprehension and decoding skills. So basically, in developmental reading, you are improving or developing specific reading skills, or you are developing stages of reading. So you are going to improve from lower level to higher level. So you're developing your skills in reading. Pleasure reading means any reading that is primarily for enjoyment. It encompasses a wide range of genres and publications includes both fiction and nonfiction. In pleasure reading, the purpose is for enjoyment only, for entertainment. That's pleasure reading. And we also have functional reading. It's designed to help students learn basic functional reading ability. In functional reading, it's very important when you read an instruction, when you are being tasked to do an activity. Meaning, um, in functional reading, you need to carry a task. And in order for you to carry that task, you need to read the instructions first. You need to understand what you need to do in order to complete the task. That's functional reading. And you also have remedial reading, aims to correct the effects of poor teaching and poor learning. In remedial reading, um, um, there's remediation because there's a problem in the reading comprehension of the person. So meaning you need to correct the errors when in your previous learning experiences. So that's remedial reading. And that's the end of the discussion. Thank you very much for listening in the discussion.